So imagine lacing up your sneakers, right, for just a casual morning jog.
Okay, yeah, just a regular Tuesday routine.
Exactly. You step out of your modern apartment, stretch a bit, and start your usual route.
Sounds pretty standard so far.
Right. But instead of running through like a typical suburban park or down a standard city sidewalk, your path is dictated by a massive 600-year-old, totally impenetrable stone shield.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, built by an ancient emperor.
That sounds like the climax of a fantasy novel, not a morning run.
It really does.
Yeah.
But according to the materials we're exploring today, that is just an everyday commute in Nanjing.
Which totally redefines what we consider a normal city experience. Because, when we usually interact with a historic city, the experience is highly curated.
Oh yeah, completely cordoned off.
Right. You have the functional modern streets where you buy your coffee, and then you have the museum where the history is safely quarantined behind glass.
You aren't supposed to touch it. You keep your voice down, read the little placard, and just move on.
Ex-
But today's deep dive is based on this fascinating set of travelers' notes and dialogues that completely dismantle that expectation. We are looking at a comprehensive guide to Nanjing, China, which is the capital of Jiangsu province.
And our mission here is really to unpack why this city isn't just, a dot on a map, but a living, breathing museum.
The sources actually describe it as a place where every stone has a story.
I love that line.
Me too. They say history lives in every street.
Which is a heavy claim to make, honestly. But the source material backs it up by operating on two very different scales.
Right, the macro and the micro.
Yeah. So on one hand, you have the macro perspective. Nanjing was the capital of 6 different ancient Chinese dynasties.
6. That's a massive historical footprint to navigate.
It really is. That level of historical concentration means the city has been repeatedly built, destroyed, and layered over centuries. It's an immense legacy.
6 dynasties choosing this specific spot as their absolute center of power.
Yeah, but the brilliance of these travelers' notes is that they don't just leave you with those grand, sweeping macro narratives.
Right, they bring it down to earth.
Exactly. We are going to synthesize that macro view with the micro-like, the highly sensory, everyday details.
So we are talking about the local street food, the nighttime strolls.
The literal routines of the people living there right now. By connecting those ancient palaces to the modern pavement, we can offer you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding the unique cultural DNA of this city.
So to understand a city that served as the focal point for 6 different dynasties, I feel like we really have to look at its physical foundations first.
Absolutely. Start from the ground up.
Right. Like, how did a place with that much of a target on its back protect itself? And the sources point us immediately to this incredibly imposing structure, the Nanjing City Wall.
It basically serves as the physical anchor for everything else we are going to discuss today.
The notes explain that this wall is over 600 years old.
600? Just think about that.
It's wild. It was built by the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty, which is a period that spanned from 1368 all the way to 1644.
That's a long run.
Yeah, and it was built specifically to protect the city. In fact, it remains one of the longest city walls in the entire world.
Still today.
Still today.
Yeah.
But when I read about a structure of that sheer magnitude, my first thought isn't just, basic practical defense. It feels like paranoia.
Oh, totally.
Like whoever commissioned this huge wall in the late 1300s was utterly terrified of losing their grip on power.
Well, it's paranoia paired with virtually unlimited resources, right?
That's your point.
You don't build one of the longest city walls on Earth just to deter a casual threat. A massive infrastructural feat from the 1300s requires a staggering amount of human labor.
Just astronomical.
Raw materials, sheer political will. It is a very deliberate physical manifestation of profound power.
So they were kind of flexing but also hiding.
Exactly. The Ming Dynasty was making a statement meant to project dominance and permanence while simultaneously revealing this deep, underlying anxiety about security.
They clearly believed they had something incredibly valuable to protect.
Unquestionably.
And the traveler's notes highlight a very specific observation about its current state, which I found fascinating. The text points out that the wall still looks strong.
It really does.
It's not some crumbling archaeological ruin out in a remote desert somewhere. It is this unyielding shield that simply refused to break.
And it is physically dominating the modern landscape today.
Right, which creates a fascinating psychological environment for the people who live there, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine navigating a 21st century life like answering emails on your phone, catching the bus.
Worrying about your grocery list.
Yeah, exactly. While constantly being dwarfed by a 14th century imperial defense system. The visual reminder of that ancient authority is just inescapable.
But, you'd think a military structure that massive would dictate a very rigid, austere vibe for the surrounding area.
You would assume so, yeah.
Like, keep things clear, keep them militaristic. But the geography of Nanjing completely subverts that expectation. Right at the base of this impenetrable wall, we find a shift to something incredibly fluid and peaceful.
It's such a drastic change.
Right. Our sources bring us to Xuanwu Lake.
The juxtaposition there is stark. I mean, you transition immediately from the imposing, rigid stone of the military fortress to the natural, yielding presence of the water.
The source notes that Xuanwu Lake is situated right next to the Nanjing city wall. And wrapping around this lake is a path that stretches for about 7 kilometers.
That's a serious path.
It is. And today, this lake isn't treated as some sacred, untouchable historic reserve. It serves as a massive recreational hub.
Right.
The text describes people going there to walk slowly, to jog, to rent bicycles, and just enjoy the view.
So you have 7 kilometers of active, modern recreation happening literally right in the shadow of imperial defense.
It's a wild image.
Yeah.
You have this massive, intimidating 600-year-old military barrier, and right beside it, people are casually jogging on a 7-kilometer loop in their activewear.
Just burning calories next to a dynasty's fortress.
It's essentially putting a modern treadmill inside a medieval fortress.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It makes me wonder, though, how this blending of intense, world-class history and everyday leisure actually shapes a person's relationship with the past.
Well, I think it fundamentally democratizes the history.
How do you mean?
Going back to our earlier point about traditional museums, when history is cordoned off behind glass, it becomes a fragile artifact.
Right. You observe it passively.
Exactly. But the juxtaposition at Xuanwu Lake shows us that history in Nanjing is robust enough to withstand daily life. It isn't treated as something delicate.
It certainly can't be delicate if thousands of people are biking and sweating past it every single day.
Right. By walking or cycling that 7-kilometer path, a person is engaging with the ancient and the modern simultaneously.
You're living in both worlds.
You aren't just reading about the scale of the Ming Dynasty wall in a textbook.
Yeah.
You are physically experiencing its length by walking beside it for over an hour.
The history is woven directly into the fabric of daily routines. It makes it incredibly approachable.
It really does.
But, spending a few hours covering a 7-kilometer path, whether you are walking slowly or running, is inevitably going to force a change in your priorities pretty quick.
You are going to get hungry.
You are going to need to eat. And you really cannot understand a city's cultural DNA without looking at how it feeds itself.
Food is often the most direct reflection of a city's historical journey.
Right. So, what does a city with 6 dynasties of history actually taste like?
That is the big question.
According to our sources, Nanjing's signature dish is something called salted duck.
Okay, yeah.
And the text makes a very deliberate point here. Unlike regular roasted duck, this dish is boiled in salt water.
And that preparation method is a crucial distinction to make.
It really is. And the result, according to the notes, is that the meat becomes very tender, and the flavors described specifically as simple but delicious.
Simple but delicious.
Yeah. The source even compares it directly to Peking duck in Beijing. It states that just as Peking duck is the signature of Beijing, the salted duck is the culinary identity card of Nanjing.
I love that phrase, culinary identity card.
Same. And it's so ubiquitous you can find it in almost every restaurant.
Everywhere you go.
But there's a real disconnect here for me, I have to admit.
Why is that?
Well, when I think of a famous Chinese duck dish, my mind goes straight to Peking duck.
Sure, most people's do.
Right, we expect the crispy skin, the heavy roasting, the rich caramelized glazes.
Very theatrical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Nanjing's signature dish is boiled in salt water, and its flavor is explicitly defined as simple.
Yeah.
So how does a flavor profile that quiet become a defining signature, the identity card of a city burdened with such a heavy, complex, multi-dynasty history?
It's counterintuitive, right? But I think a city with that much historical weight might actually require culinary simplicity to balance itself out.
Oh, interesting.
Think about the physical environment we just discussed.
The giant wall.
Right, the architecture is overwhelming. The legacy of 6 dynasties is incredibly heavy. If the signature dish were equally complex, heavily glazed, and, theatrical, the culture might just collapse under its own weight.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. The simplicity isn't a lack of imagination, it's a necessity.
Exactly. Furthermore, it points to a deep cultural confidence.
How so?
Well, boiling a duck in salt water is a cooking technique that leaves absolutely no room for error.
Oh, because you can't hide it.
Right. You cannot hide behind a heavy sauce or a crispy skin. The ingredients have to be flawless, and the timing has to be incredibly precise to achieve that very tender meat.
That makes sense.
It is a quiet, self-assured dish. The simple but delicious profile acts as the perfect grounding counterweight to the towering 600-year-old walls outside the restaurant window.
It's almost as if the city is saying, we built a 600-year-old impregnable fortress. We don't need to overcomplicate dinner.
Yes, precisely.
But while the salted duck serves as that quiet, confident anchor in the restaurants, the broader food scene in Nanjing is definitely not quiet.
Not at all.
The source material takes us out of the dining rooms and into the streets, specifically Confucius Temple Street.
Which provides a totally different sensory experience.
It sounds chaotic in the best way possible.
Yeah.
The street is famously packed with snacks. The traveler's notes list, sugar-coated haws, sticky rice cakes, duck blood soup, and salted duck dumplings.
Just a barrage of food.
And the primary piece of advice given in the text when faced with all of this, try everything.
Which is always the ultimate mandate for a traveler. Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
But look at the specific items on that list. You have the duck theme continuing in a very earthy, savory way with the duck blood soup and the salted duck dumplings.
Yep.
So it keeps that signature identity intact, but adapts it for a fast-paced environment. And then it's immediately contrasted with intense sweetness and texture.
The chewy, sticky rice cakes.
And the tart, crunchy, sugar-coated haws.
It creates a complete sensory overload. The mandate to try everything on Confucius Temple Street is how you actively consume the culture.
Literally.
Right. You have the refined, simple tenderness of the boiled duck in a sit-down restaurant, and then you step outside and are hit with this barrage of sweet, savory, sticky, and rich street food.
It's all about balance.
It provides a vibrant, chaotic balance to the quiet confidence of the signature dish.
And the sensory overload of trying all those different snacks leads directly into how the street itself transforms.
Right, as the day goes on.
We've tasted the food, we've walked the lake, we've analyzed the wall. But the source material highlights a massive shift in the atmosphere of Nanjing as evening falls.
The transition from day to night in any historic city always reveals a different layer of its identity.
The text notes some really specific geographical and historical details here. First, Confucius Temple Street is named after Confucius, who the text reminds us is the greatest teacher in Chinese history.
A figure of immense respect.
Exactly. Second, the street runs right along the Qinhuai River. And at night, the view along this river is described as beautiful, with traditional lanterns lighting up all the old buildings.
It's so atmospheric.
The source observes that the scene looks like a painting.
Lanterns illuminating old riverside architecture is an incredibly evocative image. It immediately sets a mood.
It really does, and the text adds a fascinating historical layer to that image too. It mentions that many ancient poets wrote about this river, and remarkably, people still remember their words today.
Which is amazing.
But there is a strange friction here for me.
Friction? How do you mean?
Well, Confucius is universally recognized as the greatest teacher and philosopher in Chinese history, right?
Right.
A figure associated with serious academic study, deep morality, and profound thought.
Very serious stuff.
Yet, his namesake street is now this bustling, noisy hub for night views, duck blood soup, and sticky rice cakes.
It is quite the contrast.
And on top of that, you have the words of ancient poets, these delicate, historical works of literature, somehow surviving right in the middle of a busy modern night market.
Yeah.
It feels like those two worlds should just clash.
You would definitely expect the noise and the commerce of a modern night market to completely drown out the quiet reflection of ancient poetry.
Wait, unless the environment itself is doing the heavy lifting.
What do you mean?
The text specifically says, the lanterns light up the old buildings along the river, making it look like a painting. The modern people walking around eating sugar-coated haws are seeing the exact same light hitting the water that those ancient poets saw centuries ago.
Yes, and that is the crucial mechanism of survival here.
It is.
The text literally refers to this phenomenon as the magic of Nanjing.
Oh, I like that.
The poets who wrote about the Qinhuai River centuries ago created a cultural memory that refuses to fade. But that memory doesn't survive because it is locked away in a silent, dusty library.
Right.
It survives because the physical environment constantly recreates the original inspiration.
That is incredible.
The street itself manages to honor multiple layers of existence all at once. It honors the great teacher, Confucius, by bearing his name and grounding the physical space in philosophical weight.
Yep.
It preserves the historical romance of the poets through the physical presence of the old buildings and the traditional lanterns reflecting off the water.
The painting coming to life.
Exactly. And yet it doesn't demand silence. It thrives as a living, breathing, modern space where people are laughing, walking, and eating dumplings.
It completely proves the central claim from the source material, that history lives in every street and building.
It really does.
The ancient poets, the historic philosopher, the Ming Dynasty wall, the lake. I mean, they aren't just ghosts.
No, not at all.
They are active participants in a regular Tuesday night out in modern Nanjing.
It is the ultimate collapse of time. You aren't forced to choose between being a serious scholar of history and being a tourist enjoying street food.
You can just be both.
The city allows you to be both simultaneously.
Which brings us full circle on the mission for this deep dive. Nanjing really does offer a masterclass in what it means to be a living museum.
Absolutely a masterclass.
It is a place where a 600-year-old wall built by a paranoid emperor isn't an obstacle to modern life. It is the scenic backdrop for your evening jog.
Yeah.
Where the heavy culinary legacy of 6 dynasties is boiled down into a simple, tender duck that you could find on every corner.
So accessible.
Where the teachings of history's greatest philosopher coexist effortlessly with the joyful chaos of a bustling night market.
And, it is vital to remember the highly practical takeaways buried in these traveler's notes, too.
Oh, right, the practical stuff.
The text explicitly serves as a guide for interaction. It reminds travelers that it is completely natural to ask about opening times.
Right, or to ask how much a ticket costs to get up on the wall.
Or to inquire about finding an English guide at the museum.
Because the history here is not meant to be passively observed from a distance.
Not at all.
The city demands your participation.
Yeah.
You are supposed to ask questions.
Yeah.
You are supposed to walk the 7 kilometers.
Get those steps in.
Yes. You're supposed to taste the salted duck and take the advice to literally try everything on the street.
It is a history that requires you to actively engage with it.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the unique cultural DNA of Nanjing, I want to leave you with a final reflection to mull over on your own.
Always good to end on a thought-provoking note.
The source material makes this beautiful sweeping observation that in Nanjing, every stone has a story. And the words of ancient poets writing about a river are remembered centuries later because the environment keeps their inspiration alive.
Yeah.
So think about your own city.
Your own neighborhood.
Right. Think about a place you walk through every single day. Maybe it's the busy intersection where you catch your bus, or the local park where you walk your dog.
Just a normal spot.
Exactly. If someone were to write a poem today, or lay a stone dedicated to the signature modern street of your hometown, what specific everyday details do you think would actually survive 600 years from now to tell its story?